Well, here we are. It is the first of the year. And gelukkige nuwe jaar.
Happy New Year.
And boldog új évet!
There you go. From our lovely ladies around the world. Katlin is joining us from Portugal. And Trish and myself are here in the USA. Trish is up in snowy Montana, or not snowy today. I guess you still are.
We do. We went cross-country skiing yesterday. It is snowy.
Oh,
and I had the easy Happy New Year, didn't I?
Yeah, no, Katlin, you had a busy start to the new year with
I had a busy start. I really don't want to get into details, but at least the sun is shining. So I'm hoping for a sunny 2021.
That is wonderful. Yeah. And so looking back, here we are on Friday, the first of the year, looking back on 2020, reflections on 2020, gems, something we learned. Katlin, what do you think about when you look back on our year that has passed?
Definitely learning about myself, about my offerings, about who I want to help with in my business and how I want to help, about patience. It's not really my strength, about caring and adjusting.
So I think if we look back on 2020, I can relate to what you're saying. It certainly has been a year of learning in so many aspects, learning skills. We've launched this podcast and this live show, and it's been a wonderful learning skill, the apps and the tools that we've improved and added to as we've moved along. And then our topic that we're going to talk about in a moment, resilience skills. Trish, what do you sort of reflect back on? 2020 has not been an easy year, but I think there have been some gems in it.
Definitely friendship. That's what popped into my head just now. The two of you seeking out the resilience topic could not be better for today. Really seeking out the areas that we needed to be resilient, because we all needed it in 2020, and finding the hope. And I think I mentioned when we were talking before this morning, finding the sarcasm. Sarcasm in a positive way can get me through, and laughter.
I agree. I mean, laughter is such a good tool. And I know, Katlin, you even use that in your yoga when you say, smile at yourself, and how that relaxes your muscles and relaxes your whole thought process, to just take a moment and take a smile and drop the furrow on the brain. And so when here we are moving into 2021, and people do a variety of things. I know some people set intentions, some people prefer goals, some people make New Year resolutions. I saw something the other day that made me smile. I thought, this is my one. It's called Travolutions. I can do lots of Travolutions for 2021.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, but Trish, are you sort of looking forward? And I'm not thinking, way down or for the whole year, but how do you approach? What is your strategy for approaching the new year and coming off the back end of the year of all years? What are you thinking of 2021?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I've never liked resolutions. I think they set us up for failure and disappointment. So on a positive note, I like to look back on what went well, if I can, which there's lots of things to be thankful for. And from what went well, let's grab that and launch it into the new year and really work on that. Because with my coaching practice, looking back with clients and really getting them to focus on what went well, that's kind of how we realize what we learned. Like Katalin said, what did we learn in the last year? And then how can we move that forward? That's my type of a resolution, I would say.
That's wonderful. And Katlin, what are you looking forward to, or how are you planning or approaching your new year?
Well, regarding New Year's resolutions, I don't really have some, because I think we don't need to wait for a date to start with something, right? Every day is just the right day to change or start with something. But since the perfect time is always now, I would love to journal through the whole year. I never done this before, and even though it's a small thing, sometimes I tried it several times, and as of a sudden 2 weeks were gone, and there were no notes in my book. So that's my biggest. And the second one is to stay a little bit more flexible in mind.
I think that, yeah, can definitely be. I think that ties into resilience skills, which we'll talk about in a moment. I know that for myself, I want to make more downtime. I think that, earlier on in 2020, I was hitting a very balanced life and work balance and having a good space and working a 4-day week. I find I've become more consumed into just spending time working. And I think that's perhaps because we are at home with so much more time on our hand that I'm spending too much time on my business. I love it, but I do believe that I need to get a balance back and more self-time, self-care. I want to keep learning. I've loved, the new things that I have learned, the courses that I've signed up for. And I know that, Trish, we were talking earlier on about neuroscience and, the flexibility of the brain. And I think
it fascinates us. Yeah.
So important for our brains, and especially as we're getting older, is to keep learning. And to keep stretching and pushing ourselves. I want to read more, but I think that has been on my list for more than a decade. So hopefully, I've got books and books and books. And I did something fun yesterday, which was to stretch my mind. I took all my marketing and self-learning books and I put them into alphabetical order like a library.
So you're organized, girl.
It's my mental gym for the day. I same as both of you girls. I just want to set intentions, and as Kathleen says, there's no time like now. We don't need the date to tell us what we should be trying next, and then the flexibility, because we don't know what 2021. What do you think about this? Everybody picks a word, or they promote this picking a word. I was kind of tying together, as I'd mentioned to you earlier, perhaps, it's not all positivity. And sometimes we have a negative word that sticks in our head and we think a lot of negative thoughts. And I was thinking of trying to pull together a negative word and a positive word to marry them together so that if I was feeling despondent, I could then, well, what would be the hope that I could look forward to? How could I tie that in? I don't know. Are either of you holding up a word for 2021?
I don't.
I would say permission, forgiveness. I love the idea, Carol, because it's a feeling in our gut in the same way that it's, something we're conscious of in our mind. So if we're feeling down, feeling hard on ourselves because we're perfectionists, most women are, then forgiveness.
Yeah, maybe permission to be whoever I am without judging myself.
Yep. I'd love that for all of us. And I would encourage all our listeners who are listening to us to step into this year and give yourself permission. I know that if you're an A-type personality, it becomes really hard to be forgiving, and you have put such high expectations on and it's you putting it on you. We think that our audience or, who we relate to, our friends, our relationships. So now moving into resilience skills, we each have done a fair amount of research on the topic. And then I think we each have found certain, not all skills are going to work for everybody. One of the things I read from the American Psychological Association, and I'll just read it to you if that's okay. Resilience is not a trait that people either have or do not have. It involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned and developed in anyone. And I know, Trish, you looked up the meaning of the word, and
yes.
I'd love for you to share, what's working for you.
Well, I love what you just said, because if you really think about it, which, I mean, any subject we've ever discussed, I want to go to the dictionary and go, well, what does it really say? Kind of start with that, right? And in the dictionary, it said that resilience, which we all talked about the other day, is a learnable skill, and we already have it innately, but we can learn to be stronger. The definition is ability to adjust or recover from adversity. So again, what a perfect topic for today, because I think at some level, we all have it. And then at our own level, we have learned how to either grow it or really struggle.
Yeah, and is there something that works for you, Trish, that you've an aspect that you've worked on, or that just flows for you, that it's helped you build your resilience?
I gave this a lot of thought. I've been a good student for this podcast, Carol. Practicing what I preach. If I am learning throughout my life, which I think we all have said we believe we are lifelong students, right? Then whatever I'm sharing with clients, whether it be better focus, using their phones less often, digital detox, saying no, setting boundaries, how am I doing with myself? For me, resilience would be practicing what I preach. Am I utilizing the skills that I hope will make other people's lives a little easier? Am I using it on myself? And that's not easy. You know, we don't look forward to that. We want to go eat dessert and do fun things. We don't want to focus on our self-work. So I try to think, how can I be better to myself and give myself permission, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, some of the resilience skills, I've been doing a few of the courses on Coursera with, they're just resilience skills and learning resilience skills. And I think mind reading has been a downfall for me, when you presume what you think somebody else is thinking, and try to nip that and stop it and replace it with, you don't know, therefore not to go down that rabbit hole. And then also when looking at situations, to just try to evaluate the worst and the best scenario, and then determine the middle scenario. And if you are aware of all three of the scenarios, and I think that you're not going to panic as much. And then, your mind shifts to a more positive outlook, and looking for the silver lining.
Very good.
I think there's a silver lining in so many of the things that, the situations that we find ourselves in that are difficult. There's still, underneath it all, there's still a silver lining. Katlin, what have I know that you've looked into this resilience skills, and looking at, as a yoga teacher, you've looked at it from these 4 different elements that can play into it.
That's right. Thank you, Carol. First I was thinking about the word to define it for myself, but I think I couldn't put it better in words than Trish already did. And then I was thinking about what art of resilience are there, and to define them for myself, which were physical resilience. It's your ability to function and recover when faced with illnesses, accidents, or any other physical setback. Then emotional is to mentally cope with the crisis and protect yourself from the potential negative effects of stressors. Then we have the third one, which is for me the most difficult one, is the emotional resilience, which is the ability to adapt to adversity without lasting difficulties. Then we have the fourth one, which is social resilience. It's to tolerate, cope with, and adjust to environmental and social threats of various kinds. And by one more second. And by thinking about this and putting it on paper, I just realized really that 2020 was a resilience lesson worldwide, right? Because it was dealing with the pain without getting caught in sufferings. this is what summarizes actually 2020 for me the most, besides finding unexpected gifts in things that we would normally oversee, right?
Catalin, that is gold. That is gold. What you just shared, I took notes. Way to go, my friend. I love the crazies. I loved what you said about coping with the crazies. Is that what I heard?
Crisis. I'm sorry.
I think I prefer coping with the crazies because I had to cope with the crazies in my head this year. I like that. But then social resilience, that really stuck out. Social resilience has been something I would have never thought about until 2020. So, boy, good stuff.
Yeah, I agree, because that whole social aspect of things, I mean, look at us, how we've, had to change into the way we still connect with our community. But it's become a blessing in a way, if you think about it now. Thank goodness we have Zoom, and that we can see face to face. I know in the early part of the year, so many people were talking about Zoom fatigue, but I think people are now grateful that we have actually had this opportunity, and that we can even talk to our audience and live video for our business. And there's just so many things. Trish, your Winter Boost call. Catalin teaches her yoga online. I host my mastermind online. If we couldn't see each other. So I think, community is an important element of building real resilience. And you need to look for that where you need to look for what works for you. It doesn't, it's not the same for everybody. But Catalin, we were, going to leave our audience with something.
Right. We would love to ask our audience to let us know which of the 4 types of resilience are you suffering most. Is physical, mental, emotional, or social? And you can go to our website of the podcast, and there is a new feature. You can leave us voice messages, right, Carol?
That is correct, yeah.
Click somewhere and they can leave a voice message.
And it's very easy, because as you go to the website, it's immediately on the right-hand side of the page. And although it does ask for your email and your name, you do not have to leave that. It's only if you wish to. You can record us a message. You can let us know the topics that you would like us to cover in 2021. And answer Catalin's question of which area of resilience challenges you the most, because we can unpack that further in our discussions, in our blog posts, in our newsletters. So we are wrapping up. We want to thank everybody for joining us today on the 1st of the new year. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time with our first guest. So Liz Hubert of CX by Design will be joining us as our first guest, and she's going to talk. Her profession includes customer experience and customer journey and customer mapping, but we're going to break this down for solopreneurs and ask you the question: do you know what your customers want when they visit your website? What does that look like? So she's going to unpack that a little more, and we just ask for you, if you've enjoyed this podcast, to leave us a rating, to subscribe, to share it with your friends.
Visit the new website.
The new website is so exciting. We love it. And all the episodes are on there, so you can go back. And ladies, thank you for joining me on this Friday when we should all have been chilling and relaxing. It was lovely to catch up and to start my new year with these 2 special ladies.
And thank you too for joining me on this crazy journey this year.
It certainly has been, but we're going to step into 2021 with hope, encouragement, community. We're going to do this.
Can we have a little sarcasm?
We can.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao.